All right, welcome back tonight. We want to take you live out to JD Vance's campaign headquarters in Cincinnati, where, of course, they are celebrating tonight. Just so we lost that feed, and that is what happens on election nights, primary nights, the like. But they are, in fact, celebrating tonight because he is the projected winner in that highly contested Senate race in Ohio. And there you see right now, pretty somber group, but good news for them tonight. Early on in the night, 7 Republican candidates in that race, and J.D. Vance will now go on to face Representative Tim Ryan in the November election. He is a 10th term in Congress, so he's got his work cut out for him in that race.
Yeah, and this was really sort of seen as the very first test of just how big is President Trump's coattails. Everybody in that race in Ohio set themselves up as the Trumpiest, and Mr. Trump chose J.D. Vance. He was third in the polls 2 weeks ago, came to first, and is now, you can see, we are projecting J.D. Vance to win the Ohio GOP Senate primary, go on to the general election, and then we look forward to the rest of President Trump's midterm endorsements. With that, we bring in NewsNation senior contributor, Washington Post columnist George Will. Is J.D. Vance the kind of post-Trump Republican, if you will, who can unite both the Hillbilly Elegy crew, the Trump crew, and traditional Republicans, the Peter Thiels and the like?
I'm not sure, Leland, whether there is a post-Trump Vance, because he has wrapped himself around Trump like a vine around a tree. Second, I'm not sure, frankly, whether there's another wing of the Republican Party, but let's look at the numbers as they come in. Mr. Trump said, you're all trying to be like me, but one is my preferred choice. And he will not get a majority. He will not get a plurality of the votes, I think, when this is all counted. And the question is now for Mr. Vance, can he climb back to where most voters are, which is not obsessed with the competition for the approval of Donald Trump? It's an old problem in American politics to nominate someone who can then shift and get elected by an electorate that is not typical of the nominating electorate of a particular party. I think this is probably a pretty good night for Mr. Tim Carney, the Democratic candidate.
You know, I was wondering if you had the chance to hear any of Chris Steyerwalt's analysis moments ago about the battle come November in these midterms and Republicans trying to widen that gap, and the work that Democrats have on now the discussion over Roe v. Wade, inflation, how much everything costs, the rising cost of energy prices right now, how you kind of carve out the next few months and who shapes that discussion.
I think Chris was exactly right, which is we're fascinated by this voting tonight, but not because we're interested in any of the names on the ballot. We're only interested in the name that's not on the ballot, the name of Donald Trump. And I do not think the American people are sitting around obsessing about Donald Trump in 2020. Elections are always about the future. And the question is, who is going to present to the people of Ohio something like the future? Now, Ohio used to be a pretty swing state. Now it's a red state, but nothing lasts in American politics. And we're going to see whether the state that used to give us Mr. Republican, Robert Taft, a state that's given us 7 presidents, the state of Ohio, at one point was, and could still be again, I suppose, typical of America, whether all the voters of Ohio are obsessed with this fight within the Republican Party, or whether they are ready to turn around and look around. And I have a feeling that the Democratic candidate is going to be very competitive, and that we're going to be back here in late October saying this is a horse race.
Well, does this buoy, though, Trump? I mean, this is just one race. I mean, you've got a bunch of primaries coming up, and his endorsement, if it does, in fact, have the Trump effect, the Midas touch, as you say, a couple of months from now is the discussion different, looking ahead to the presidential race, and he's going, all right, that's looking pretty good.
Obviously, it's better for Mr. Trump to have won than to have lost. But again, if you look at all the votes cast, this is a fairly small intramural fight among a particular swath of Republicans. Mr. Trump has to decide whether or not this really tells him there's a groundswell that can get to the middle. There's an old saying that American politics takes place between the 40-yard lines. Or as someone has said, it's like a competing for a dime that's on the 50-yard line. Elections are won in the center. And Mr. Trump has no interest in the center.
Yeah.
And Mr. Vance has a long way to go to get back to the center.
Yeah, if he's going to pull off a Youngkin-like victory in Ohio in terms of being able to talk about and focus on those couple of key issues, probably in Ohio it's more the economy than it was education. It looks like perhaps JD Vance has come into his headquarters. We're starting to see some movement in the camera and some cheering there as they're figuring out they had won. Interestingly enough, ABC sent a couple of crews to Ohio, and while ABC on World News Tonight has not spent a considerable amount of time, in fact, almost no time, covering the issue of the border and of immigration, their reporters said over and over the most important issue for Ohio Republican voters in the primary was immigration, was border security, not inflation. Would have surprised me. The question, George, to you is, will that translate as to the most important issue for the voters between the 40-yard lines, as you would put it, in Ohio?
I think it has the potential to do that, because although Ohio is a long way from the Rio Grande River, television brings all this chaos into the American living rooms. And when people get the sense that border security, that control of borders, which is an essential attribute of national security and of national identity, when they get the feeling that that is slipping away, that I think will trump even inflation. But it's hard to see, Leland, where any issue between now and November breaks in favor of the Democrats. That's
so the Supreme Court, assuming that the leak's true and Roe gets overturned, that's not enough of a break in their favor or motivator?
I don't think so, Leland, because if you look at what the American people think, the American people like Roe v. Wade, but they don't quite understand Roe v. Wade. What they want, that when they say we like Roe v. Wade, is they want abortion to be available, but they do not want unlimited abortion on demand for any reason at any time in the gestation, the 9 months gestation of a human infant. I think where the American people are going to come down is, and they're going to realize that this is perfectly possible without Roe v. Wade, is something akin to what is the norm in Europe, which is about a 20-week limit in the gestation before abortion.
Yeah, well, you see, yeah.
And you're going to see a much more moderate argument about this.
I mean, I wonder if you're going to see a nuanced opinion, right? I mean,
is there anything in American politics that's nuanced?
Right,
Pardon me for laughing,
but
is nuanced
the
these
draft
days?
is not final, right? If at some point in June we see an opinion that goes along the lines, George, of sort of what you're talking about here, if people don't know Roe v. Wade, they're going to be looking it up right now and figuring out exactly what it means. George Will, always good to have your perspective, senior contributor and Washington Post columnist. Great to see you tonight.
Yeah, it looks like the folks at
with you.
JD Vance's headquarters just heard the news. You can see the clapping and the cheering, a little bit more energetic crowd than they had before that has filled out. Hearing his speech tonight, I think, will give us a really interesting look at where his pollsters now view, and his political consultants, because Vance is extraordinarily well-funded, where they view that sweet center lane that both Chris Stirewalt and George Will talked about. Watch for the issues that Vance has transitioned to. We'll see what this race moves and pivots on.
All right, now as we watch his camp kind of celebrate, wait for him to take the stage, and when he does, we'll bring you part of that. We want to get the latest on the ground in Ohio. Alan Henry from our Columbus station joining us now live from JD Vance's headquarters. Alan, set the scene for us. The news, it seems like it has now trickled in to the headquarters there. Some of the reaction.
Yeah, unfortunately, they're watching the station that's not NewsNation, but that station that they are watching just called the race for JD Vance. You can see the crowd behind me here. They are getting very excited. We just got the 5-minute warning that Vance will speak about 2 minutes ago, so he will be on that podium any moment now. We are at the Duke Convention Center in downtown Cincinnati, about 35 miles south from where Vance grew up as a kid in rural battle poverty in Middletown, Ohio. He wrote about that, of course, in Hillbilly Elegy. It's an unlikely path, or perhaps an unlikely candidate here in this Ohio Senate race. But as we were talking about all evening, it seems as though he has pulled off the victory tonight and will be representing Ohio this fall in the Ohio Republican primary. Of course, that was partly due to President Trump's endorsement coming just a few weeks ago.
All right. Well, Alan, it sounds like the speaker's work at JD Vance headquarters. Alan Henry from our affiliate WCMH. Alan, thank you. A little tough to hear him, but I think they're ready to party tonight.
All right, we got 5 minutes. We understand it's a cash bar, so funded by Peter Thiel, but there still is a cash bar at the victory party. We're going to try to get in a quick break before we go to Vance, or we're going to go to Julia Manchester. We're waiting to hear.
Let's take a break.
Manchester it is. Manchester's after the break. If Vance steps up, we'll break in. See you in a minute.
Thanks for watching. Click the red subscribe button below so you can get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.